Patricia Henson discovered that her husband of 22 years had been hiding a second family on the stage of Family Feud on a Wednesday afternoon in April of 2022. She didn't find out from a private investigator. She didn't find out from a friend. She found out because her husband, David, standing 3 feet to her right in front of 200 studio audience members and multiple live cameras, answered a survey question with complete and total honesty in the voice of a man who had clearly forgotten, in the heat of the game, that the answer he was about to give was going to break open a secret he had been keeping for 11 years. Steve Harvey went completely still. Not for a second. For 12 full seconds. And when he finally spoke, it was not as a game show host. The Henson family from Savannah, Georgia, had a reputation in their neighborhood for being the family that had it together. Patricia and David had been together since college. They had been voted most likely to last forever in their graduate school yearbook. A joke that the people who voted for them now circulated quietly, with something between awe and dread. Patricia was an administrative director at a Savannah hospital. David ran a real estate business. They had 2 adult children. Their son Marcus was 26. Their daughter Alicia was 23. And a younger daughter, 9-year-old Simone, who had been the surprise of their 40s and the joy of the house. They had applied to Family Feud because Simone had seen the show at her grandmother's house and had begged her parents for 6 months to try to get on it. Patricia had filled out the application form at the kitchen table with Simone on her lap, pointing at the questions and helping answer them. They had been called back 18 months later. It was Simone who screamed the loudest when the callback came. But nobody in that studio knew what Patricia was about to discover. The game had been going well. The Hensons were up by 34 points in the 3rd round. David had been on fire, quick with the buzzer, sharp with his answers, hamming it up for the cameras in the way that comes naturally to a salesman. Patricia had been calmer, steadier, laughing at her husband's antics the way you laugh at someone you've known for 22 years and whose antics are still somehow charming. Simone was in the audience with Patricia's mother, and every time David pointed at her during a celebration, Simone went wild. It looked exactly like what it was supposed to look like. A happy family having the time of their lives on a Tuesday afternoon. Then Steve Harvey asked the question. It was a fast money round question. Name something your spouse does that you've never told them you've noticed. It was meant to be funny. It usually produced answers about snoring, leaving cabinet doors open, mispronouncing words. David Henson buzzed in immediately. He was still in salesman mode, still riding the energy of the game, still playing to the cameras. He said, "She doesn't know I have another daughter in Charleston." The room held its breath. Nobody laughed. Nobody moved. David Henson's expression changed in real time as his own words played back to him through the silence of 200 people hearing them. He had answered the way you answer when you're deep in the zone of competition and the muscle memory of honesty fires before the filter does. His hand went to his mouth. Patricia turned to look at him. She turned the way a person turns when they've heard something that their brain is refusing to process as real. She looked at him for a very long time. Then she said, very quietly, "What did you just say?" Steve Harvey had placed his cards on the podium with both hands, placed them flat. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. He walked a few paces and stood with his back to the audience for a moment. His shoulders moved. When he turned back around, his face was different than it had been for the entire episode. He said, "We need to stop, not as a host. As a person." What followed was not scripted, not staged, and not produced. It was one of the most raw, uncontrolled moments in the history of American television. Patricia Henson asked her husband, in front of 200 people, if it was true. David Henson said yes. She asked him how old the child was. He said 8 years old. She asked him the child's name. He told her. She nodded the way you nod when a fact is landing on you that your body needs time to absorb. Then she looked at the audience. She looked at all 200 of them. And then she looked at the cameras. And she said, "I want to go home." Steve Harvey crossed the stage. He stood next to Patricia and he said to the room, "Give us a moment." He said it as a declaration. A producer appeared at the edge of the stage. Steve said, "We're pausing." The producer said something into his headset. Steve didn't look at the producer. He looked at Patricia. He said, "You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to perform anything right now." Patricia looked at him. She said, "I just want to see my daughter." Steve turned to a crew member. He said, "Can we bring the little one up here?" Simone, who was 9 years old and had been watching all of this from the audience with her grandmother's hand over her eyes, was brought up to the stage. She walked up not quite understanding everything she had seen, but understanding that her mother needed her. She put her arms around Patricia and she said, "Mama, are you sick?" Patricia held her. She said, "No, baby, I'm okay." That was the lie that wasn't a lie. That was a mother deciding, in one breath, to protect her daughter from the weight of what had just happened in the next 60 seconds. Steve Harvey knelt down on the stage floor in his expensive suit, and he spoke to Simone at eye level. He said, "You are the reason this whole family is here today. You know that?" Simone nodded. He said, "Your mama is the strongest woman I've seen on this stage in 20 years. He stood up. He turned to the room. He said, "I want everyone watching at home to understand something." He paused. There are moments in this building that go beyond a game. This is one of them. But Steve wasn't done. He pulled out his phone during a live taping, which hosts never do. He called his personal attorney. He said on camera, "I need the name of the best family law and crisis counseling resource in Savannah, Georgia, for a woman who is going to need both tonight." He gave the attorney Patricia's name and contact information. He said, "Whatever that costs, the consultations, the first steps, whatever she needs to understand her situation, that's on me." He hung up. He looked at Patricia and he said, "You are not making any decisions tonight. You are going home with your daughter. Monday, you call that number. One step at a time." Patricia nodded. She said, "Thank you." Her voice was very steady. That steadiness, the steadiness of a woman who has decided to hold it together until she is somewhere private, was the thing that broke the audience. The competing family, the Wrights from Augusta, had not moved from their podium. Their team captain, a woman named Carol Wright, crossed the stage. She walked to Patricia and she said, "I don't know you, but I'm a mother, and I see you." The studio fell completely silent. Patricia put one hand over her mouth. Carol Wright held her other hand. The audience broke fully open. Steve announced that both families would receive the full prize package. He said it in a voice that left no room for any other option. He said to David Henson, quietly and directly, without the microphone but with the room's silence catching enough of it that it could be heard, "You have a 9-year-old daughter who loves you very much, and a wife who has given you 22 years. Whatever comes next, you lead with those two facts." David Henson said nothing. He nodded. When the episode aired 9 weeks later, after extensive review and with Patricia Henson's explicit permission, she had watched it back and had consented to its broadcast. The clip of Simone walking up to the stage was seen 310 million times in the first 96 hours. It trended in 31 countries. The hashtag came from Simone's question, "Mama, are you sick?" People shared it with nothing written in the caption, just the clip. Because there was nothing to add. 3 months after the taping, Patricia Henson had retained a divorce attorney in Savannah. 6 months after the taping, she had moved with Simone into a house she had purchased herself, 1 block from her mother, with 3 months' earnest money that came partly from the Family Feud prize and partly from a fundraiser that strangers on the internet had quietly organized after the episode aired, raising $180,000 in 11 days for a woman who had never asked for anything. A year after the taping, Patricia was enrolled in a counseling psychology certificate program in Savannah, saying she had discovered during her own therapy that she wanted to do for other people what her therapist had done for her. Today, Patricia Henson runs a support group in Savannah called One Step at a Time, named after what Steve Harvey said to her on that stage. Over 600 women have moved through the program in 2 years. Simone, who is 11 now, has a framed photograph of the moment on the Family Feud stage in her bedroom. Not a photograph of the hard moment, a photograph of the moment she walked up to the stage and put her arms around her mother. Patricia says it hangs there because Simone wanted it there. She says her daughter told her, "I want to remember that I was there when you needed me." Steve Harvey said in a later interview that the Patricia Henson taping was the moment he understood most completely what the show could be at its best. He said, "That stage is not just a game show. It's a place where real life shows up, and when it does, your job is to be a human being first and a host second." Patricia Henson was the most dignified person I have ever watched go through something undignified. I think about her a lot. A survey question about what spouses hide from each other opened a door that one man had kept shut for 11 years. And on the other side of that door, instead of collapse, was a woman who held her daughter, made the call, and took the first step. Some secrets destroy the people they're kept from. Some secrets, when they finally come out, turn out to be the beginning of something that was always, quietly, already there, waiting for the person it was kept from to be free of it. If this story moved you, if you've ever watched someone face the thing they feared most and find out they were stronger than the fear, subscribe to this channel and hit the thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to know that the truth, even when it comes the hard way, is always a door worth walking through. Have you ever discovered a strength in yourself you didn't know you had until you had no choice? Tell us in the comments. Ring the notification bell for more stories that remind us what it looks like when love is not the same as surrender.